Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, aquí tienen el horario para hoy. No es un horario, es el guía de repaso del examen final, perdón. Just wanted to create a quick video for you guys as you review for your final exam to walk you through the different parts, especially the production parts where you're having to produce oral and written responses to various prompts in the target language. So first and foremost, you have the format of your final exam here on the left-hand side of your study guide. You have the key terms and concepts with the page numbers associated with them, and then a description of what to expect for the reading and the listening comprehension, both of which multiple choice, both of which pertaining to preterite, imperfect, subjunctive, tense conjugations, and then the theme for any vocabulary used would be the environment. We're going to focus on the writing and the speaking. And for the writing, you have 5 optional writing prompts. Remember that we changed it last week, the week leading up to doing our review. That originally it was 3 prompts, of which you had to do 2. Now you're having to do 3 prompts, choosing out of 5 options. So I'm going to walk you through the questions, and then what key terms and concepts would be helpful, and where in your notes you should be looking to help conjure your responses. Number 1, ¿qué hiciste el fin de semana pasado? Is asking, what did you do last weekend? Using the verb hacer, to do, in the preterite. So this one the response wants to be in the preterite. And in your response, you need to include at least 8 verbs in the preterite, 2 of which need to be irregular. You also want to include 3 time markers as well. If you take a look at page 4 in the textbook, you have your regular AR, ER, and IR verb endings. So these would be the conjugations you would want to use. You have conjugations for Kargar-Zar verbs in the yo form. You have the irregular conjugations of the verb ir, which you would want to use if you want to talk about where you went. And then on page 5, you have some irregular stems that are used in the preterite. So these verbs in the infinitive, their stems in the preterite, and then the endings, all of which identical, most of which identical actually. These would be the endings that you would use with those stems to conjugate those verbs in the preterite. In terms of context clues, those are highlighted here in the blue box on page 5. Anoche, last night. Anteayer, the day before yesterday. Ayer, yesterday. El año pasado, last year. El mes pasado, last month. La semana pasada, last week. Una vez being one time, or dos veces being 2 times. But these are some commonly used context clues. And there are others. Esta mañana, esta noche, etc. But you would want to use at least 3 of these in your response. Okay, so that's page 4 and page 5. Grammar that you would need to respond to that prompt. And then the questions that are in italics: what time did you wake up? Where did you go? Who did you spend time with? And what did you have to do for school or for your family? Again, over the weekend, these are optional. You don't have to answer them for the writing. These are just to help guide you and activate prior knowledge to get you going when you're doing this on the day of the final. Prompt 2. ¿Cómo piensas que va a ser el futuro? You're going to use the present subjunctive, and you're going to use at least 4 expressions which require the subjunctive. Now, if you take a look where we last left off, the last lecture that we did, it was on page 34. Subjunctive with doubt, disbelief, and denial. Depending upon whether you do or do not use an expression of doubt, disbelief, or denial, that will determine whether or not the subjunctive is used in the subordinate clause. Say that again. Whether you use, let me go back. Whether you use or don't use an expression of doubt, disbelief, or denial in your main clause, such as those listed at the bottom of page 34, these are all expressions of doubt, disbelief, and denial. To doubt something, to deny, to not believe, to not be sure, to say is not true. These are all expressions of doubt, disbelief, and denial that we would associate with the subjunctive because the main clause implies uncertainty. If the main clause does not imply uncertainty, for example, you're using some of these expressions in the main clause: to not doubt, to say there is no doubt, to not deny, to believe, to say is true or certain, then your subordinate clause would be in the present indicative, regular present tense. As you can see in these examples, the second verb, or the verb in the subordinate clause, highlighted in bold, is in the regular present tense, the way you learned in Spanish 1, because, again, there is no doubt or uncertainty expressed in the main clause. Just keep that in mind. And then compose your responses utilizing 4 of these expressions. Could be expressions of doubt or uncertainty, could be expressions of uncertainty. It's up to you to make your predictions. Do you think that many people will be driving electric cars? Do you think that many animals are going to be close to extinction? Do you agree, or excuse me, are you sure that we're going to live on other planets such as Mars? These can prompt you to give you some content and structure for your responses, but again, you don't need to use your responses to those questions in your compositions. Number 3, de niño, de niña, de pequeño, de pequeña, como eran. This is about you writing what you were like as a child, and again, fundamentally, I'm looking for 5 to 7 sentences in Spanish. This is going to use the imperfect, which can be found on page 14, página 14, if I recall correctly. 15 maybe? 12? Forgive me. Yep. Page 12 has your regular and irregular conjugations in the imperfect, and these are essentially what I'm looking for. So, what did you used to like to do in your free time? What did you used to do after class, after school? What was your favorite subject and why? What was your family like? Again, prompting all your conjugations in the imperfect. Number 4, what do you recommend that students, green students, so freshmen essentially, do or not do to enjoy themselves and be successful in high school? This needs the subjunctive because you're making recommendations. So if we go back in the book, not recommendation, maybe that was 14. Present subjunctive. 15 gave us some clues for the present. Will or influence? There we are. Good. So page 15 gives some expressions of will or request or influence. These are expressions that we use when we want to make suggestions or recommendations or demands or needs, to express desires or needs. We're using the verb recomendar. You could use the verb sugerir or aconsejar. These are all kind of synonymous. Bottom line, all of these require the subjunctive because you are expressing in the first clause will or influence, suggestion, or recommendation. So you're going to start a lot of your sentences with recomiendo que, sugiero que, aconsejo que, again referring to these verbs that are on page 14. Recomiendo que, sugiero que, aconsejo que, or you could go impersonal. Es recomendable. Es necesario. Es preferible. Right? Make them impersonal if you so choose. And then give some suggestions for what they should do. What extracurriculars do you suggest they participate in? What do you suggest they do or not do to make new friends? What classes do you recommend that they take or not take? How to be successful and enjoy themselves while here at Liberty. Again, 5 to 7 sentences in Spanish. For sure want to use the subjunctive in your subordinate clauses. And then finally, number 5, I know this video is getting a little long, but the speaking is going to be a lot easier because we've covered already a lot of the questions for the speaking. Last question for the writing: who, for whom, or for what are you thankful, and why? I'm going to use the subjunctive to indicate what people do for you, the person that you're thinking of, what they do for you, how they treat you, your relationship with them, the dynamic between the two of you, and why you're thankful for that friendship, relationship. So using the expression estoy agradecido or agradecida to say I am thankful. Yo estoy agradecido por person, thing, intangible, que, and then after that, or porque, or just que or porque after the person or the thing that you've identified, and then the subordinate clause, because you're expressing gratitude, right, is going to be, the verb in the subordinate clause will be in the subjunctive. ¿Cómo te apoya la persona en quien estás pensando? How does that person support you? Whatever action verb in the subordinate clause, whatever it is they do, that verb will be in the subjunctive. How do they make you feel? Your expressions of emotion there in the subordinate clause. Feelings will be in the subjunctive. What do you do together? What do you like to do together? Again, whatever action verb in the subordinate clause will be in the subjunctive. Yo estoy agradecido por blank que. Then after que will be your subordinate clause, and whatever it is exactly you're thankful for, what they do to support you, how they make you feel, or what you do together, the action verb in that subordinate clause will be in the subjunctive mood. All right, speaking. Real quickly through the 10 questions. Again, you're only responsible for 5. You'll pick 3. I'll pick 2. You have the questions, or you will have the questions in front of you. You just won't have your written notes. Be familiar with the questions and your responses. Number 1, what'd you do last weekend? Give me 3 verbs in the preterite. Number 2, what were you like as a child? Give me 3 verbs in the imperfect. So they're kind of abbreviated versions of the writing, right? You'll recognize a lot of the questions for the writing prompts are the same questions for the speaking. So 3 things in the imperfect. To describe what you used to be like as a kid, I need 3 verbs in the imperfect. Yo era pequeño, sociable y atlético. You're only giving me 1 verb and 3 adjectives. I want 3 different verbs conjugated in the imperfect. Show me that you know the imperfect. Show me that you get how that grammar is used to talk about the continuous past. Number 3, mis padres insisten que yo. Tell me 3 things in the present subjunctive that your parents want you to do or insist you to do. Number 4, just like prompt 4 in the writing, suggestions. Suggestions that you have for freshmen. So verbs in the present subjunctive. 5, just like prompt 5 for the writing. Who you're thankful for and why. 3 verbs in the present subjunctive. 6, how do you feel the future is going to be? Just like prompt 2. 7 is using the simple future, and I believe we went over it briefly together at the beginning of the academic year. Simple future is very simple. ¿Qué vas a hacer durante las vacaciones de verano? You're going to use this construction, ir, the verb ir, plus a, plus the infinitive, and the infinitive is whatever it is you're going to do during the winter break. So conjugate ir. In this case, it's in the to form, right? In the form of a question. So in your response, you're going to conjugate it either in the yo form, which would be yo voy, or in the nosotros form, which would be vamos, or maybe you want to talk about somebody else. Maybe you have a sibling or a family member that's going to do something and you're not. That would be él or ella va. Anyway, conjugate ir, probably in the yo form, yo voy, a, and then whatever it is you're going to do, that's your verb in the infinitive left in the infinitive. For example, mi familia y yo vamos a visitar a nuestros primos en San Jose, digamos. ¿Ya? Ir, a, infinitive, and then a little bit extra in terms of what you're going to do. But you don't have to if you're going to straight hibernate during the break. Yo voy a dormir muchísimo. Yeah? That works fine. So 3 things like this that you are going to do during the winter break. What do you generally do in the afternoon? Give me 3 verbs in the present indicative. Generalmente yo llego a casa a las 3:50 de la tarde. Yo como a las 4 de la tarde y hago mi tarea a las 4:30 de la tarde. 3 things, and don't forget to include the time of day as well. Actually, the time of day might be a little redundant since we're talking about the afternoon that's already been established. You don't have to include the time of day if you don't want to, but include the time. When I say time of day, I mean de la mañana, de la tarde, de la noche. Do include the time at which you typically do those 3 things. After school, 9 and 10. In the subjunctive, share 3 things that one should do to stay in good shape. And the verb in the subordinate clause for sure should be in the subjunctive. And however you conjugate that, could be the yo form rhetorically, could be the to form as you're making a suggestion, could be the nosotros form in solidarity, things that we all should be doing to stay in good shape mentally and physically. And number 10, in order to get good grades, what is it that's something you need to do, we need to do, I need to do? 9, similar to 10, just different topic, academic performance. So that is your final exam. Speaking questions. Again, you're responsible for 5. You pick 3, I'll pick 2. We'll do those one-on-one. Those of you that don't do it at the end of this week, we'll do it the designated day of the final. Everything that's on the final is on the study guide. There isn't anything that's on the final that's not here. I wish you the best of luck on this final and all of your finals. Study hard, play harder. Let's get to the finish line here. I'm really proud of all the work that you all have done. You have been terrific, especially in the second quarter as we've kind of cranked things up. Finish strong, y'all.